Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, thanks so much for joining me again. And if you're new, you have joined on a very exciting project day. This is my second project, untitled, for Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Volume 4 Treasure Hunt. And just a reminder for those of you that have been following and for newbies, this project is based on a color story solely. So this is where I'm at so far, and in theory I should be on prompt 6 trims, but let's talk about that. I do not have any trims that go with this color story. I did buy some of these bias tapes here because my intention was to create my own trims, and I thought this was a strong enough surface for me to work on for a first attempt at making trims. But as I was, just kind of toying with this and laying it down, kind of in the format that I'm thinking this project's going to complete in, and I was just looking at it, I kind of like the solid lines. I don't know if I'll mix it up like this or if I'll just go with all one. If I do this, I'd like to find more of that blue violet. This is like a royal blue, and I think I would rather have more of the blue violet, which I have not found yet, but the search continues. So, much like 1776, I decided to skip trims until the end because, again, for me, in this project, trims are going to be a finishing project. I'm not ready for them. So I'm skipping it, and I am moving on to prompt 7, botanicals, and I am so excited. You may remember, let me move this out of the way first. Just fold this up, set this to the side. Okay, you may remember from my first video when I was kind of showing my mood boards for this, that I really wanted to get to use this scarf, in particular this orange flower. So what I've done so far is I did go around it with a glue stick to try and prevent, I don't know what this fabric's going to do when I cut into it, so I'm worried about it just kind of shredding apart really quickly. But I did put a ring of glue around this to try and prevent that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this thing out. I'm nervous. I'm so nervous because I have a history of making poor cutting choices. I frequently don't leave myself enough of a border. So I'm hoping that I have given myself enough room to work here and that this will be a successful cut. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to come in just a little bit. Can you all see? I don't know if I'm going to come in just a little bit from the edge of this line because I feel like this, can obviously be used for a future project, but I want to give myself, again, enough border to play with. So I'm going to just come in, and I think I'm going to cut right here so that I still kind of have a straight, run, and I'm just going to leave a little border here. Okay, now I'm going to cut across to my flower. And all right, here I am to my glue line. So I'm just going to cut around the glue line. Come on, be cooperative. And hopefully we won't experience too much shred. I just got to make sure I stay on my glue line. Too much shred in this material. I made very conscious choices when I made this glue line, recognizing what I would potentially be sacrificing from other parts of this scarf. So again, I hope I've made good choices. I guess we will see in the future, but we're almost around. And once I get this cut out, we're going to look at some layout options and talk about some treatment that I plan on using with this flower. Almost there, almost there. All right, be free flower. Great. Let's see how my edges are holding up. Nice, nice. I'm so pleased. They are not falling apart, and that makes me very happy. So I plan on appliquing this flower down. I have set up a hoop here for my flower to go on, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to applique this down, and then I'm going to cut slits in the back for each petal, which will already be outlined with stitching, and stuff it with some of this polyfill from the back. Then from there, my plan is to apply my pillowed flower to an additional background. And I wanted to kind of play around with my layout for just a minute here. This is the background fabric I'd like to use. And I have this spool of tulle ribbon that I would like to kind of, I'm just playing here in the middle. Obviously I'll move out to the edges of my fabric, but for now I'm just kind of playing here in the middle to get an idea. I'm kind of thinking, you know, a swash of this fabric going across here somehow. This flower sitting in here amongst it. I do not like this petal. I think it's awkward and weird. So what I was thinking, I went back to the fabric and I almost went through to cut out these leaf motifs and reapply them to the project. But you know, they're not part of my color story. They're green. I would have to cover them up completely. And I thought instead, what I think I would like to do, instead of cutting into this and then having to cover this completely, is I just got out my light box, which is an old toy from my kids, an old art toy from my kids. It just lights up from the back. I put my fabric on here and a piece of paper, and then traced out the leaves that I have, or that I was interested in, as well as some additional flowers, because I thought I didn't want to deviate from the style, the artist's style too much, but I need some alternatives here. So I traced, here's some of the couple of the leaves I traced out, and here are some of the flower options that I traced out to add to this project. So I wanted to see which flower I liked kind of filling this hole. And also I feel like I need to angle this flower a certain way for this flower sitting there to make sense. So I kind of like that one. Let's see what this one would look like peeking out. It's a little small, I feel like. What about something like this one? Because I like that it covers up that gap and it extends out just a little bit to kind of move that. So if I square this off, trying to use our imagination here, but I hope I'm in frame. If I try to square this off here, thinking this is my cut, I kind of have a dead corner over here. And so let's see about, what if I was to put this half flower sitting there? And then maybe, I like this leaf, but I need it, no, that flower sitting there, and maybe a bunch of leaves coming out behind, like from behind it, or no, I don't want my pattern going off that way. But let's see. I do like this bunch of leaves right here. And this was traced from this exact leaf pattern. You can see that that was there but I do think I want to rotate it around so my leaves curve in this way. More coming back over the flower. And then, what if I move this up a little bit and I put, oh, excuse me, and I put this coming down across the bottom of the flower, maybe like that. I'm gonna lose some leaves in behind the flower because these leaves I intend to be in the background. So maybe something like this. I like this. I think this could work. It's at least a good start. I'm not sure what, like again, if I square this off, I have a big dead space over here, and I'm not sure what I will do there. Maybe just some running stitch or some kind of other filler stitch. But I do have this kind of almost seed stitch looked background, so I'm gonna have to really be strategic and make sure I make a good choice there. We'll see what happens. But this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm sorry, excuse me. Just get a sip of water. So this is what I'm thinking. I feel like this is a good start. I think my first step that I need to do is to applique this flower down to this backing fabric because I think it's going to shrink. And when it shrinks, this part will have to be, you know, in this general pattern, but reconfigured to fit the new size of the flower. So I think that's going to be my first step. How is everybody doing while I get this kind of all pulled back apart and get ready for some sewing? A little tidy up. How are you doing? I hope you're well. I hope that weather and society in general is treating you well where you are. We are expecting rain today, which is pretty exciting because we need it desperately. So it's a pretty gray day outside, but the temp is wonderful and I don't mind gray skies. Stormy weather is one of my family's favorites. So let's get back to this. What I plan on doing is appliquing this down to this backer. And before I do that though, I think what I would like to do is set this centerpiece. So let me do that first. Oh, wrong one. I have a needle already threaded here. I'm going to do the center and the outlining for finishing this project in my violet blue color because I just think it's beautiful. And so where I'm going to start is I'm just going to do stab stitching or straight stitches to anchor down these little lines here in the background that hold the little pistils that are like this base for the pistils. So let's see here. Oh, you know what? Before I get started, I need to put on my glasses. Oh, there we go. I can see. All right. So we're just gonna anchor this center down here with some straight stitches and just kind of following these already existing black lines as our guide. And then once I get these set, some of these, the tops of these are really big. So I didn't want to do a pistol stitch because I'm going to get more thread than what I currently have on my needle and do some really loose French knots. So I'm just, oh, I don't even know where that came out. That's all right. The good thing about this is a couple extra lines. Nobody's the wiser. So we'll go through here and get these black lines covered with some of this royal purple thread, and then we'll come back and finalize all of this down with some very large loose French knots. I have been looking at this project sitting on my desk for days. It has intimidated me. I am as excited as I could be, because usually the projects that intimidate me the most, the visions that I have, and I'm like, really, Dion? You've only just started this. Is this really what you want to try and do? And then my other brain screams, yes, yes, I can't wait. I'm going to anchor this one down because some of these have a little curve to them, and I would like to, you know, like I said, keep the artist intentions in there. Oof, come out. I'm just going to pull that thread over and put a little couching stitch in it to make sure it kind of stays in place. Anyhow, I have been walking past this and walking past this, thinking about it when I go to bed at night, trying to decide, do I have what it takes to make this work? Is it too advanced for me? And B, exactly how I want it to work. There's a lot of layering going on here that is going to take strategic thinking about how I put down my other pieces, and that has caused me quite a bit of brain fuel to try and figure out what I'm going to do for that. I'm going to anchor this one down too because it's got a little bit of a curve that I'm not hitting. I'm sorry, I'm anchoring it, but I should say I'm couching it down. So that's coming, I'm happy with how this is coming along. Just some little, you know, straight stitches here to fill in this space. I don't care about the background colors still showing. I'm okay with some of the artist marks still showing. I think it just gives it a little more depth and a little more interest. So we're gonna come down here and we just got a couple more marks to fill. And then next, I'm gonna go ahead and pop down to the bottom. I should probably pause and go ahead and do that ring of French knots, but I'm just gonna come on down here and finish off my thread on these bottom ones and just make sure that I hold my fabric pretty tight. Here's another curved one, so I'm gonna come up, and before I pull it too tight, I'm gonna come over here because these are kind of, once they get set, they're hard to pick back out of to lift back up off the fabric. So I'm just going to come over here to the side of it and kind of preset my couching stitch so that once I pull it tight, oh, that didn't work, darn it. Too loose, too loose. So let me pull that tight and then pull this tight. There we go. Oh my gosh, it's so dark in here. Even with my craft light, I can barely see my thread. Okay, let's do another one. This is, again, these are going to be a little bit longer because they're in the front, so I'm going to have to be, I think I'm going to end up couching these down here, just finding a little spot here in the center, making sure that I'm holding that thread where I want it so I don't lose it in the background, and then placing it in at the right curved space. So I've had a pretty fun week. I went and played bunco for the first time in my life. I know everybody's like, the first time, what? No, I seriously think I'm just about the only person my age that has never gone to a bunco party. And I was actually invited by the women at church, and it was so much fun. Such a good time. I'm definitely planning on doing it next time. I've offered to bring food, and we just had a great time. But I have seriously never played. Everybody was shocked and amazed, but yeah, it's not a hard game. It's just rolling dice. And honestly, a lot of the tables I ended up at, we didn't even care about rolling the dice. We were just there laughing and chit-chatting and having a good time. And the bell would ring saying the round was over, and we'd be like, oh, well, we rolled 4 times. So team whatever, you got the most. Congratulations. And nobody cared. It was just fun. So that's been an adventure this week. And that's really all that's kind of been going on. I am currently applying to get into the substitute system for in our local school district again. My kids are grown, and I find myself with time, but not time, but time that perhaps I should be spending helping our family income. So I am working on that and finally got my application pulled together. Let me tell you, filling out applications after being a stay-at-home mom and that consummate volunteer for scouting and PTA and band and all the things that our kids do, for doing that for 23 years, and then trying to fill out an application for a professional position again is difficult. Like, you should have seen me trying to find professional references. Last time I worked in a professional setting, I mean, aside from owning my own business, was 23 years ago. So yeah, that was fun. Nothing like causing a little panic. Okay, so I need some more thread, and this is my tray of threads, y'all. It's so entertaining. I have not written down my color numbers that I have chosen, and I have had to go back to the store several times and buy more thread like this because it's the only place I can find fibers in my color story so far. But I don't know the colors that I'm using, so every time I go, it's like I come home with a different number, and I'm not minding it. It's not affecting the integrity of my project at all. And it's kind of interesting to get so many different shades from the same color story. It just kind of depends on how I was interpreting color in my mind that day almost. So that's been fun and interesting. I'm going to take 6 strands of this DMC floss in my current choice for royal purple or the blue violet purple. And since I've run out of thread, I'm just going to take this opportunity to go ahead and start up here at the top and start some really big, loose, I'm going to do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 feels good. Let's see how a 4 wrap fat French knot looks. Yeah, see, that's filled in nicely. So I'm just going to come all around here and fill the tops of these pistol stitches in with large French knots. I'm going to kind of loosen this one. I'm going to kind of back twist it so that I get a little bit of a sloppier, larger French knot. I think that'll be good. And then I'm just going to fill this all the way in. So let me turn off the camera. This is several French knots, and this project has a lot of steps. Hey y'all, I'm just popping in here to show you where I'm at on my project. I don't have my camera in its stand. I am filming it by hand. But let's look at what's going on because a lot has happened. I have needle turn appliqued the flower down to my back fabric, and it, oh my gosh, y'all, horror of horrors, literally nightmare coming true. As I was stuffing this, I have a couple of places that started to shred. Let's see if I can show you here, right there. This was a tricky spot. There's another one. Oh, where is it? Oh, good night. Over here. Let's see if I can get it to focus. The fabric literally started to rip in half. So I quickly went, let me get you back in focus there. There we are. I quickly went and got some glue and just decided to go all the way around. You'll see down here, I started to make, ooh, that's a big finger. We started to make some different choices on these tricky spots and left myself a little grace space there in hopes that the stitch that I use to, again, needle turn applique this thing down to its background fabric will cover up any of these little troublesome areas. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you that. Also, I'm going to go ahead while I have the camera in my hand because I think it gives me the best opportunity to show you. This is a petal that is not stuffed yet. And if you see, there's a lot of give here. And so that's going to work out perfect because I have already stuffed the other petals. And let me see if I can give you a dimensional shot here. Do you see them coming up off the fabric? Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Kind of. Oh, it's so cool. I'm so pleased with it. I am terrified about the weak spots, but I'm hoping that the glue will solve it. And let me show you the back. All I did was put a little slit here in the back of each petal. This is the one that I still have to do. So I put little slits in the back, and I used my handy dandy chopstick just to push the fibers into the places, get down in all of the little pointed ends. Yeah, you can see how that would have caused a stress tear right there. I don't think it was that I wasn't being gentle enough. I think it was just the nature of the fabric and the cutting that I had to do in some of these places to try and get the needle turn right. I definitely have some practice in my future for needle turn. But anyhow, I'm going to finish stuffing this petal, and then I will come back to you and we will talk about the layout because that has changed a lot as well. All right, guys, see you in a little bit. Bye. Okay, everybody, I'm back. Here is my stuffed flower. I know it's still looking a little rough around the edges, but we are going to be able to fix that. And I am happy to report that I believe the glue did save the day. Let me show you the back because this is some hanky embroidery here, and I was totally MacGyvering this. But I really wanted to try and get all of my backing fabric pulled in as tight as I could. You can't really see any from the front. Any white you can see is the original silk from the scarf still. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I will say that the woman that I watched the video for that inspired me to use this technique of stuffing it from the back, which allowed me to really get some great dimension in there versus layering batting on top of each other. Anyhow, that's why I picked this process, but I can assure you she would have watched me doing this and said, no, that I didn't say to do any of that. That's all wrong. But it's worked out and I'm happy with it. And so now it's time to talk about layout. And man, I had this thing, I mean, there were leaves, there were flowers, there was a lot going on here. And I was pretty pleased with it, but it was a lot. I don't even remember where everything was anymore. And I showed it to my kids and I said, what do you think? And my son said, wow, that's huge. And I was like, holy smokes, this is pretty big. And when I measured the layout that I had, that thing was 9 inches by 9 inches. And I was like, well, we need to pare this back, which worked to my benefit because I was really struggling to figure out how I wanted to do these flowers. I wanted them to be dimensional for whatever reason. That's what was in my head, was a dimensional flower. I tried picot stitch. I tried doing one of those button weaves on the wheel to get a base so I could build a center on. And then I also started trying some turkey stitch. You may have seen that experiment going on in the last clip we did. You could see it down in the bottom of my canvas. And then whenever we said this needs to be reined in, and I said, well, what if I took the flowers away and it was just leaves? That allowed me to bring my piece down to about 6.5 by 8, which is still my largest piece thus far on project number 2. And this is where it fits into the layout at the moment on the background piece of fabric that I have pre-selected. And I think it is fair to say that this background fabric is not going to end up staying. We still have buttons, which that prompt has been released, and that's prompt 8. And so we still have 4 prompts, including buttons. So 1, 2, 3, 4 plus buttons. I'm already maxed out, and I can tell you right now my button plan is bigger than any of these spaces. It's not this big, but it's definitely bigger than any of these spaces. But what I wanted to look at was, okay, so the project's going to get bigger, but is this piece going to be absurdly disproportionate to the others? And I think it's okay. 6.5 by 8, I don't think I'd want to go any bigger than this, but I think it's okay. I do have one more project that I would like to work into what my daughter has now accurately identified as a gallery wall. You know how gallery walls were all the rage. Well, she's like, this is just a mini gallery wall, and that's exactly what it is. So I do have one piece that I think could come close to this that I'm hoping will fall into a prompt, but this is it. So having said that, let me move this out of the way. I feel like I'm constantly folding up this project. I went ahead, this is the background fabric that I want to use. So I've gone ahead and measured out my square that I want to work in. I've left some trim for covering up the edges, folding them under, however that's going to work out. And my initial thought when I had started thinking about this project was that I wanted to do something with some of this tulle netting back here in the background. Let's see, get my pins open. See if we can kind of just stick this down and see how it looks. I'm just going to stick these straight into my mat because I don't know. So maybe something like that. This is some of that whisker yarn that's in my color story. This is very loose. I'd obviously have to finesse this a little bit more, but I'm just going to lay that on there. And then I envisioned the flower coming across this. This tulle is going to be something else, isn't it? And then what my thought was, maybe at this angle, and then a leaf back here, this little cluster of leaves here, down here in the bottom, just kind of peeking out. Let me stand up and see. I'm okay with this. I like this. The tulle is I would have to tack it down, but I think this looks okay. I would do these leaves, I think, in a dark orange. Maybe like, I have some scraps of fabric here. Let's look. Maybe like in this kind of orange? I don't know. But let's look at something else though, because speaking of scraps of fabric, I do have this little pile of scraps here that I had cut out for another project and ended up not using and I came across them in the box, and I was like, you have not done any, I'm going to scooch back up, sorry for my squeaky chair. I have not had a chance to do any fabric collaging, which, you know, is such a huge thing and all the ladies do it, and I really want to try it. So I said maybe on this one. So let's look at our scraps and let me lay out some collage and see what I think. Here's my couple of my favorite fabrics in here, of course. Love this one. Definitely would want to see that one. What if we put that up in the corner? I liked the swatch. I liked the shape of the last one. I just want to see something else in the background. That tulle felt a little crafty to me, maybe. So let's see what we can do here. Let me get my glasses on. Good night. Okay. What about a piece of this? Oops, that's the right backwards. Yeah, I don't like that fabric. I think it's good on its own, maybe, because I know I've used it, but I don't like it with this mix. It has kind of a undesirable color to it. Maybe I should put down my fabrics that are kind of strong, like my patterned ones, and then see about breaking it up with some of my solids, like just kind of building across here. I'm not really 100% sure yet because I'm just kind of like doing stuff in theory. Maybe like something like this. And then I want to keep that movement going down here. So what else do I have? This. Here's another piece of my purple. A lot of my stripes are covered up here. What if I did this one, because they kind of would peek into that gap right there. Oh yeah, see, now you can really see them a lot better. Let's try that. Because then if I ran this one here in this corner, then my stripe is going to come up, this striation is going to come up the side and you'll still see it. I like that. This fabric here on this is kind of giving me this vibe. I'm not loving it. It looks a little dark, grungy, or I don't know, the color's just not right. I'm not gonna, we'll put that over there. Something smaller maybe. This color is also kind of tricky for me to work with. My eye does not love it. It's part of the palette, and I don't know if it's just this fabric or what's going on with that, but not my favorite. If I come up out of this corner a little bit. I love this fabric. Where does this fabric go? Here? Here? I've pretty much used the same fabrics. That's probably because I'm comfortable with this. It, you know, it balances. You know my thing about the balance. It's got to be balanced, and so I'm kind of using the same colors. All right, so we've got that going. Let's put our flower back across it again. let's replace. I'm putting this at an angle because I cut that petal out there. I didn't like the shape of it, so now I've got to kind of fill that space in. What about, come here you. So what if I did something like this? Make sure that I can just extend those stems right there. And then this one will come up underneath here. This little cutaway petal, I think I'm just going to complete it so that I don't have that awkward little gap there. It'll basically be kind of like this. So let me see how I feel. All right. Sorry, excuse my arm. You know, okay, I would do, instead of the orange, I would do this in this blue violet that I love so much. Or what about one of these? That's too light. That won't show up. This, however, will. Okay, I think, y'all, I'm really liking this. I like this better than the tulle. So, oh, knocking everything down. I'm going with this. I'm so glad I found these scraps. I think that this works out better and I'm happier with it. I think I might kind of mess around with these a little bit more, and I maybe do, like, I don't know if I like that much of that blue showing. Maybe this striated orange, breaking it up. You know, just, I'm going to mess around with it just a little bit more and see if I can get some different directions going. This looks very stripy to me. But then, yeah, I'm going to sew these. I'm going to finesse them, sew them down. I will trace these leaves on, and I think I'm going to do these. I want them to stay in the background, and I've got all these fabric cutouts, and I don't know that I want to do more fabric cutouts, so I think I'm just going to trace these down and do a long short stitch and fill it in, maybe do some outlining, and I want to get those stripes in the leaves. I'll do those in another color, maybe this light one, or even lighter. I do have a light blue that I could go over it with. Ooh, I like that. For my leaves, so that they're solid, they're smooth, they stay in the background. Fabric-y scraps. I'm not sure if I want to do invisible stitch and leave them real clean, or if I'm going to do some running stitch and maybe even some cantha stitching across my solid pieces here. But yeah, I think this is where the direction we're going. So I'm going to go do the leaves and put these squares on, and then we'll come back to finish applying the pillowed flower. All right, great, y'all. I'll be back. All right, y'all, I am back and my project is finished. Let's go. There she is. I'm filming this by hand because I want to get close and show you some detail, and I'm not so great with that when my camera's in its stand. So I'm going to go slow, try not to get sick. Well, let's start from the top. As you can see, I eliminated the my original idea of the blue tulle and decided to go with a fabric collage in the background, and I'm really happy with it. I also sewed in my leaves, and you know, I laughed about it because I broke the rules and I did long stitches because I really wanted my leaves to have that smooth look, and I tried several things. There's some couching down. There's some really tricky couching down in there. But you know what really happened is when I sewed in the veining there, it really helped couch down a lot of that. Now, would I do it again? Probably not. Sometimes rules are there for a reason, and there's definitely some problems here with my leaves, but I'm still happy with them. And as you'll see here in the centers, I added some orange whisker yarn, and let me see if I can get to that bead so you can see it really close. It's a drop, and it comes up off of the fabric. It's very dimensional, and I'm super happy with it. But let's get to the real showstopper, the flower. As you can see here in the center, I did my stitches and French knots. I added some larger beads and then did some of my little sparkle seed beads in there. Let's talk about the applique. One, as we've discussed, my needle turn applique needs some work. But I'm happy with how this turned out. I wish that my outlining was a little thinner. I did use all 6 strands of a DMC floss to stitch that down, but I really needed that to cover up some of my tricky edges, and I'm not unhappy about it. I would have liked to use a finer line, but I think it worked out all right. So it's been several days. And I apologize for that, but the project is done, and I'll be catching up on Roxy's Journal of Stitchery prompt 7, and I think 8 maybe in the same video for my 1776 project, which will be the next video I put out. Thanks so much for your patience. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a notification when my next video comes out. I am still working on getting a regular schedule, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Thanks so much for y'all's support. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye. Oh my goodness, it's me again, y'all. I almost forgot the most special feature of this flower. The tufting, the stuffing. Let's see if I can give you a dimensional shot here so that you can see. Oops, I'm so sorry. Let me try again. You can see there, you can see how the flower is tufted up. Oh, there's a good shot. Tufted up off of the surface of the fabric. So it's pillowed, and it is super cool. I really wish y'all could get your eyes on it just to see it. And it's squishy. Oop. It's squishy. It gives. And I just love it. All right, guys. That's really me gone this time. Thanks so much. Bye.